What's going on, everybody? This is Brent Swanson from Midwest Muscle Report. I'm here with Brian Yersky, fresh off the New York Pro. Brian, how we doing?
Doing great, man. You?
Really, really good here. Good here. Well, Brian you placed 10th this past weekend in the New York Pro. Kind of tell us how you're feeling, what your emotions are, and just what's next for you.
It was a great experience. Like I said, coming off my pro debut in Chicago 2 years ago, it was a humbling experience. Kind of didn't deliver the package I should have, and thus, we took the time, regroup, remotivate, get into New York Pro this year, where we, like you said, we placed top 10, took a 10th place finish. I mean, I was striving for, with that lineup. Ideally, I was looking, in the top 10, but eighth, 6 through 10 would have, somewhere in that mix. Ultimately, 10th is good. The only thing I'm happy, but I'm disappointed with the way I faded into finals. I didn't present the same package I presented at prejudging. So ultimately, if I would have duplicated that prejudging look, we would have solidified ninth. But I mean, a place here or there is irrelevant. I'm just disappointed in myself that I faded into finals. I didn't present that crisp look. So
Now, what, if you don't mind me asking, what do you think happened between the prejudging and the finals that made you fade a tad?
I think it was just a combination of what we end up. We didn't eat any junk after prejudging. We got right back to the diet food, which is fine. But I tend to flatten out, so I just think the amount of carbs I would have needed would have been a little bit more. And then we upped the water a little bit. It could have been too much water, not enough carbs. Who knows? It was just, live and learn. But I was very pleased with my dry prejudging package that we brought.
Yeah, looking at the pictures, you were super dry and super conditioned and very hard looking. And even if people follow you on Instagram and Facebook, even the pictures that you were posting previously, you're very vascular and hard, and actually quite a lot of weeks before the show.
Yes.
So
that's why we didn't want to change much going in. I mean, we didn't want to, pull all these crazy ass ideas and try to manipulate the body. We rolled in. I mean, kept the water in, kept the food the same, kept the amounts the same. So, I mean, there wasn't much fluctuation. But then once I said we got ready for prejudging and I started getting all amped up and then my metabolism was rolling, I just think I needed to not necessarily add garbage, but just add more quality, But I also wanted to keep my digestive system working and not overload it with the white starchy carbs either, because that's all I've been using for the prep. So It's a fine line for me because I don't want to get distended and have that bigger waste if you can't digest the food. But then I also don't want to, dive into adding a bunch of garbage and, you're rolling the dice on that end too. So
that's how I feel too. When the body fat is that low, literally it's minute by minute, it's flat, full, and it don't take much.
Right. I feel I could have been a little fuller, for prejudging, but like I said, you're walking that fine line. So I'd rather be hard and crisp, and then use a little flat than other than spilling over and ultimately looking kind of like kids for finals. So
now, are you somebody when you typically carb up at the end? Do you typically add a little bit of junk at the end, or are you pretty much one of those competitors who stays with the same carb sources all the way through?
The system. Yeah, stay with the plan all the way through. Yeah. I work with Chad Nichols. He handles it all, and he's like old school mindset. Just what has got you there, just keep it the same. And like I said, with my body, it's so fast and it fluctuates so much that it's easier just to keep on track with the basics.
Yeah, I love Chad and Kim. Actually, they're from my hometown in Decatur, Illinois, and I can vividly remember when I was a little boy going to the grocery store and seeing them when Kim was in her prime, and like that's what I want to do. They just left such an imprint on me as a little boy, and they had no idea that they even did that until meeting them and talking to them later on. So now, where are you going from here, Brian? Do you have any more shows lined up? Guest posing?
Actually, we got both. We got guest posing appearance this weekend here at Kent State University in Ohio at the North Coast. Going to go out there for finals, meet the fans, have a booth set up, sell some of the new B-Rex apparel that I'm trying to brand myself. And then the following week we got the Toronto Super Show. We're going to roll up there. It's a good show for me. I think I like the way the agenda is set up because prejudging and finals are all Saturday night.
Okay.
So it's I'm all in. If I can bring that look Saturday evening for the combination of the two, we should be sitting fairly well.
Right. And as a competitor and in talking to people, some people say they tend to look better in the mornings. Some people think tend to look better at night. For you, do you typically think generally that there's a certain time of day that you look the best?
And no, it's just planning accordingly, and it's that short turnaround for me. Like I said, Nationals was awesome because it was Friday morning, Saturday night, so I had ultimately 30 hours to regroup. That quick turnaround where you suck down for prejudging at say noon, and then you got to duplicate that look there 8 hours later.
Right.
It's tough. But when it's either back to back, like Toronto's going to be, where you just step on stage and it's a matter of a couple hours, or if you have that 30-hour loop where you can, get some water in you, then pull it back out and all that. I mean, so 2-day shows are nice, and then ultimately this is going to be the first time I've done a one and done per se. But
right, awesome. Now going back. And then going back to when you won your pro card as an amateur and a top level amateur versus now where you are as a professional, what are the biggest things that you've learned along the way, and how do you take your preps any differently as far as training goes, nutrition, or do you approach anything differently, or have you learned anything along the way, or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, training and nutrition. Nutrition is solely in the hands of Nichols. Like I said, he handles it. I don't think about it one bit. He sends me my revisions. I send him my morning, my evening weight every day, and whenever he feels it's adequate to send a revision, he sends it, and I follow it to a T.
Right.
Training, getting back to the training 6 to 7 days a week since maybe a year now. I've been training with a gentleman here that he's been turning the screws to me. We have Rockin' Pro training. Big E is who he's known by, and he just turns the screws to me. So we're heavy, and we're stretching the duration of the training sessions longer. Trying to burn that the subcutaneous fat and all that through training, and not as much cardio. I've been doing minimal cardio, so we're trying to implement a lot of heavy training.
Right.
Other than that, the biggest thing is the mentality. It was easy towards the end of, not easy, but easier towards the end of Nationals, knowing that I belonged. I was climbing the ladder, and then once you're in that top 5, you're like, I'm coming to compete.
Yeah.
Once I started all over, I mean, I kind of had that mindset going into Chicago Pro 2 years ago, and that's where it was humbling. I'm like, oh shit, I'm the national champ. I'm going to walk in here, be top 5 competitor. And needless to say, that didn't happen. So I'm just, pacing myself again. I understand I got to go through the ranks as I did as an amateur. It took me a couple years, to climb through the amateur ranks. I'm willing to do that now as a pro. So, if we can, like I said, had the quality showing at New York. We can, a couple places better in Toronto. Ultimately, top 5 in Toronto is the goal. Or be in the mix. I'm not sure of the lineup, but, be in the mix in that top 5, and then see what happens. Either we prolong the season and, try to solidify some more top 5s, or we shut it down and then train into the spring of next year.
Right. And I think that's, being, looking at the pros versus the amateurs, the difference between you guys is not that much. Especially going through the New York Pro pictures and looking at you compared to some of the people who placed above you, in my estimation, between you and, moving up a few places it's not like it's leaps and bounds. It's like it's very, very minimal, so.
A little fuller, and not even a little fuller, but a little bit more muscle mass in the next year. A couple more pounds of muscle, a couple more, degrees of conditioning if we can get more of it. But, definitely a little bit more fullness and add some added muscle. We'll be competitive, so.
Yep, it's never enough. Last question I want to ask you. This past offseason, coming into the show and the prep and everything, what is the one muscle group that you really wanted to key on and bring up to help your symmetry? Not that you have bad symmetry, you have great symmetry, but what was the one thing that you really wanted to focus on?
Primarily that inner upper chest. I mean, it flattens out so fast. I mean, it's just my genetic weak spot is my chest. My shoulders are so dominant, and just trying to target the chest mass in general, but kind of trying to keep the muscle when we diet in that upper inner clavicle. And then moving forward, I mean, like I said, looking at the New York Pro pictures, I mean, definitely bigger everywhere. More chest, more legs, more arms. So there's a laundry list, but no, primarily focus was trying to keep the mass in the chest and just maintain fullness.
Right, right. Awesome. Well, Brian, thanks for joining us today, and I can't wait to see how you do in the next few weeks. And check out Brian at his guest posing, and definitely be checking him out at the Vancouver Pro. And we're anticipating here at Midwest Muscle that you're going to do some great things here in the next few weeks. So
Really.
thanks for being our guest today.
Yeah, look forward to more of it.
All right, thanks, Brian. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.